Hey there. Good to see everyone, although I can't see you. But we like to say those kind of things because, we just say those things. Anyway, good morning, America. I know it's good afternoon here. Good afternoon here. It might be good morning where you're at. Just wanted to drop on here. Hadn't been on for a few minutes and say hello and talk about the friends we lose, or the quote friends we lose, over things and growth and awakening, all of those wonderful elements. So I know it's tough. I know it is a challenge to lose some of these quote friends sometimes. You either have fear friends or you have love friends. Do you know what I'm saying? Friends that are in love or friends that are in fear. And when we go there, when we allow the awakening process to happen in us, when we allow growth to take place, rest assured, my friend, you are going to lose some of those quote, and I say quotation mark friends. Because many of which, and we're prone to do this ourselves, we're human, many of which don't like change and they want to stay right where they're at. They want to stay in their own dogmatic box. They want to stay in their own doctrinal things and issues. And when we say no to ego and we drop the 18 inches down into the blissful state of heart-centeredness, guess what's going to happen? It's going to cast forth a fear into the fear-filled ones. The fear is, they just crossed a boundary that my leader or my pastor or my ego says I should not cross. Amy and I talk about this a lot. It's not uncommon that we walk into a store or an establishment or a restaurant or a friend's house or a relative's house or an acquaintance's house, right? And we may not agree on many levels, if any at all. But yet we somehow find the humanness within us to value that experience at some level, right? You have family members, I have family members, we have relatives, we have friends, especially over the holidays. You get together and you may not agree on much. But yet somehow the love in us values or tries to value and honor that other person's belief system. And so why do we get so threatened when we're in the religious realm by somebody that wants to awaken and grow, maybe exponentially, beyond that which somebody else feels threatened by, and their own limitations, right? We have our own limitations, they have their own limitations, but when you finally say, enough, I am done with playing the game, I am done with living the mundane, I am done with the same old, and I know that systemically, there's something wrong. And that's one level. The other level is we just flat out stand under levels of understanding. We're standing under that level of understanding no matter where we're at in our growth. And because we're standing under that knowledge or that revelation or that insight or that foresight, whatever you want to call it, then we have a limitation. But when you allow the ego to when you disempower the ego, when you keep it from being fed, you keep the food away from it, in other words, and you say, I'm gonna withhold from you because you've had a hold on me, and I'm gonna drop down underneath the surface, the 18 inches down into this area that has no conclusions and it has no limits. And when I drop down there, you're going to scream and you're going to kick and you're going to fight. You're probably going to want to try to end my life or give up in some way at least. And you're going to want to try to stop this from happening. But when you awaken to the tricks and the lies and the illusion that ego puts off, then you'll see clearly. You're like, okay, I'm seeing this game happen right in front of me, and that's what's trying to give up here. But yet it's trying to tell the place in me that could never give up, the place in you that could never give up, and it's heart-centeredness. That's the core of your being, your spirit, the real you, the authentic you, never, ever, ever wants to give up. So this is the tug of war, right? It's blissful effortlessness in the core of who we are in the heart-centered area. Blissful effortlessness. But the ego lies to us and says that no, we have to sweat it out, we have to force it out, we have to work it out and figure it out. If you find yourself saying, I'm figuring this out, or I need to figure this out a lot, if you find yourself saying that a lot, it simply means that ego is struggling to keep you up here. It's struggling to say, no, I'm not losing this battle. I'm going to keep you right here in the hard work, sweat, and toil of life the rest of your days. And so learn more, get another degree, start going to school again, start getting educated some more, start taking more classes, start taking more courses, double down on your political efforts, double down on your stances, double down on your doctrine and your dogmas, because I'm not giving this bad boy up. I am not giving this up. And so it lies to us. The illusion is, stay in your head, stay in bed, because I'm going to kill you dead. And when we blow the lid off that illusionary lie, then we find ourselves sinking below the surface of all of the chatter and the noise. And then we become one with Christ. We become one with love. And then when the friends begin to walk away in that distance, the 18 inches, somewhere in that mix right there, somewhere in that drop, they begin to walk away because they think, wow, you've lost it. You went crazy on us, or you left this church, or you left this leadership, or you left the Bible. You left, they say all kinds of things, even though you haven't. You haven't left the Word. The Word is Christ in you. It doesn't have anything to do with the Bible. And believe me, the Bible's beautiful. Hear what I'm saying, please. Christ in you is not that. Christ in you is Christ in you. You're one with love, and love supersedes it all. Now, the Bible confirms that, but it's not Jesus. It's not Jesus. It's not Christ in you. So, when you have a relationship with the living one, then people are going to say, ooh, I can't find that in Scripture, buddy. What are you doing? Wait, where are you going? Wait, hey, come back here. Get underneath of our, submit to us. Come on, no, come back. Submit to my 3rd grade revelation here. Come on back. Get under our covering. Come on back. And you're like not prideful or egotistical about it because you drop below that scene and you're like, wait a minute, hold on. I am just simply ascending and awakening at the pace that Jesus and I are face to face. So if that ascension moves me beyond the religious strongholds of the friends that want to anchor into that ceiling of a level of understanding and don't want to move in that direction, move beyond, then I'm going in the way. I'm going in the way. Hey, I still love you, still care for you, but I cannot anchor into that anymore. If I do, it'll be the death of me. Like I will start dying, right? You feel like that, literally. And that's not the egotistical thing I was talking about earlier. It's just like you feel like your whole being is being shut down. Because whether we realize it or want to acknowledge it or not, humanity is ascending. Humanity is awakening. The water levels are rising. Now, some people don't know what that means. They don't know what it is, but they just know that they're waking up to systemic stuff going on. They're waking up in the right ways. Okay, guys? I'm talking about the God-led, the Christ-centered ways. We're waking up, and some don't realize what that is. The people that do, they understand that, wait a minute, for God so loved the entire humanity. He's busted the bookends out of the box of religion, and he is gone to humanity, to the entirety of humanity. He's visiting people all over the planet, all by himself, not checking doctrines, not checking dogmas, not checking with the local pastors. He is moving beyond, because we're made out of the same substance he is. We're love. We are love. So you have love friends and you have fear friends. The fear friends want to anchor you right into that immaturity of religiosity in the boxes they call dogma, the boxes they call institutionalism, the boxes they call, look, if you leave here, if you do that, if you say that, if you go there, it's just beyond my grid and I can't quite understand you, and therefore fear is ruling my life. They won't say that, but that's what's happening. Fear is ruling my life. And I don't think that Jesus could actually wear a pair of Nikes or Adidas. I don't believe that Jesus would actually want to go and sit down with that smelly homeless person. I don't believe that Jesus would want to go walk right into that New Age community, sit down and laugh his head off with the person that's sitting there hungry and awakening themselves. I don't believe that Jesus would want to go in and sit down with the person dropping the F-bombs every 5 minutes. No. I'm going to stay right here in my own little safe box. Do you realize that we're only as safe as where Christ is leading us in oneness? Oh man, that just came out, didn't it? We're only as safe as Christ is leading us in oneness. Meaning that if I think I'm going to be safer living in Florida, Texas, or Tennessee, politically speaking, and I'm being led by my fear friends and my fear friends within me, do you know what I'm saying? If I'm being led by that and I don't really realize it, but I'm just listening to the narrative out there, then that is one of the most unsafe places I can actually be. Oh, come on, somebody. Somebody shout that one down, Serena. Hey, Dawn. I mean, I'm just telling the truth here. The safest place to be geographically in the natural and in the spirit is being led by the oneness Christ is. So you could actually be safer physically in a place like Chicago if Christ in the oneness, you're one with him and he's one with you, if that is leading you to stay in Chicago, to stay in LA, to stay in New York City. But your fear friends, your religious fear-filled friends that don't want to grow much, that don't want to awaken but want to stay in their dogma boxes, will tell you all day long that, oh no, I'm moving to Texas because we all have guns. They have guns, I have guns, that's where it's safe. I'm moving to Florida because we love DeSantis, and that guy will not allow anything bad to happen to me. Can I just tell you that Amy and I just recently lived in Florida for a year, and it's probably one of the places that I've felt the most unsafe in. And we were in Sarasota, one of the, quote, considerably safe cities. And I'm going, ooh, okay, let me check my oneness meter. What's going on? Well, we went down there for a contract work assignment. And I'm going, what's going on here? Well, it was the collective that we were feeling. It's a collective fear from everybody moving in there, full of fear because they thought that they were going to be safe, and yet they're carrying their fear with them. When you carry your fear with you, you don't feel safe. Interesting. So we're ascending, my friends. We're ascending. Humanity is ascending. So what that means is there's a collective ascension going on. The fear is dissipating in the ones that are awakening and ascending. We're collectively moving higher, if you will, in the light. The light is expanding. The light is expanding. It is brightening. and it's causing everything that's dark to be seen and known pretty evidently, pretty clearly, right? And because we're awakening, what it's doing as a collective, and individually and a collective, is it's causing a safety to be felt and known if in fact you're aware of it. See, if you're aware of that oneness, the oneness meter, yes. Transcendental, I love that word. Transcendence. We're transcending all of these lower planes of the egoic realm. The lower planes that say, hey, I have to go here geographically to feel safe. I have to be in this doctrinal dogmatic situation to feel safe. I have to be in the bounds of that leather book to feel safe. And if you go outside of that and talk about iPhones or fashion statements or hunting or fishing or whatever your thing is, it's not in the Bible, then I don't feel safe. You're talking about I can't confirm it through Scripture. Guys, that is all fear. That is all fear. Believe me. Trust Amy and I when we say this. When we walked out of institutional religion in 2003, officially, we had all the threats. We were in leadership. We were doing all the stuff, right? And Amy is about ready to have a nervous breakdown, and I wasn't in a good headspace at all. I was just lost. But yet I knew that we had to do something or we weren't going to make it. And so we had all the lies tell us from the leaders, like some well-known, some not so well-known, but people that you kind of look up to and respect and admire at the time. We had them telling us, if you do this, if you walk out of here, the devil's going to eat you for breakfast. You are going to be listening to lying spirits, and you are deceived by the devil. You are in trouble with God. You're going to hit the brick wall. The banana that leaves a bunch is going to get peeled, and we heard it all, right? And at that point in my life, I said, I don't care. I have to do this. If I don't do this, if we don't do this, it's going to be worse. So we took the risk, and we walked. And we've only looked back a few times since just to dip in and see what was going on. You know what I'm saying? God would have us dip in and see what's happening here and there. But we met, beyond our expectation, we met lovers. We met lovers. We met genuine believers. We met authentic followers of Christ. We met people that were so relatable and so real family, real friends, and they're all over the world. You've met them too. And when the mask came off, when the blinders came off, see, because you don't know what you don't know at the time. You think you're in the juice. You think you're in the stuff. You think you are running with the best of them in all those circles. And there's good people there. Don't misunderstand me. There's good people there that are just asleep just like we were. And there's some awakening, and it's like the conscious level now is like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So then, what do the people do when they double down? The fear friends, the fear people that you know, that are full of fear, they double down on their doctrinal stuff and their dogmas, and they're saying, wait a minute, those people, those millions of people that have walked out of institutional land, our institutional world, are deceived. All those people are deceived. And point the finger and say, we're in trouble with God, right? And then you have somebody like George Barna come along years ago and write a book and saying, how can millions of believers be deceived? It's a good point. It's a good question, right? We know that institutions are crumbling. We know that they're being dismantled, deconstructed, whatever you want to call it. They're all just losing their power. They're not working anymore. Why? So that we can drop from the religious, egoic stance that we've had for so long and allow it to disseminate, to allow it to dissipate, so that we can see clearly enough that it is about heart-centeredness. And heart-centeredness will put you right into authenticity, my friend. It'll put you right into your own authentic nature. Most people that are caught up in institutional whatever, don't know how to be authentic. They don't understand what the authentic nature means. They don't know how to not be cookie cutterish. All they know is I'm just doing what I feel. And that's why you see conferences all look the same. That's why you see meetings and glory meetings and gatherings and a lot of these banners, a lot of these postings, a lot of these meetings, they all look cookie cutter. You can't really, can't point the finger in judgment. I'm just saying that this is reality, guys. It's reality that people get caught up in and they don't really know who they are. Because the first person that busts out of the inauthentic nature and becomes authentic to who they really are, guess what happens? They become original. Then you see the original songs come forth. You see original art come forth. You see original language come forth. You see the person so relaxed in their own skin that they don't give a rip what anybody else thinks, but not in a bad way. They're just like, hey, you do you, I'll do me. That's okay. You do you, I'll do me, and let's do this thing. Let's go. Bam. And so you don't have to do a meeting or a gathering or an apostolic this or a prophetic thrust this or and charge an arm and a leg because of a necessity of money or needing to be seen. When you become authentic, you don't need any of it. You don't care about the meetings, you don't need the gatherings, you don't need to have the charge the $1,000 for your prophetic school for the 3 days. You don't have to do any of that stuff because it's no longer a need. That was the illusion of the ego saying you need to do this to be seen, to be heard, to not feel abandoned, not feel rejected, to not feel unworthy. So then when you drop into heart-centeredness and you live out of that realm, the vast, limitless possibilities with no conclusions attached to them, when you live in that realm, in and out of that realm where the bookends have been kicked out of having any limitations, then you're in the vast pool, the ocean of oneness. And the ocean of oneness says, live in the moment, because the moment gives you endless possibility. Living in the future now, in the current now, the eternal now, gives you the opportunity to be your full authentic self. And when your full authentic expression happens, that's when you become Christ-like. That's when you become one with his nature. I would say the closest thing that I have seen in media form or movie form, Amy and I have been watching The Chosen. And this is big, it's controversial right now because you've got a lot of the people that are stuck in that institutional realm saying, oh, this is blasphemy, it's not following scripture, it's not going line by line. Jesus would never say that, he wouldn't do that. But I tell you what, Amy and I are crying all the way through this thing because that Jesus, that one in The Chosen, is like, here is a guy in the flesh, God in the flesh, that is completely relatable, totally hilarious, humorous, says the things that you know in your spirit he says, because he says them to you when nobody's around, right? Oh, we just love it. We love it, man. I'm so glad not following the dogmatic line by line scripture verses, because there is so much conversation in between chapter and verse that we miss. In humanity and living in our own daily lives, we miss the conversation in the now because we're looking for some chapter and verse that Jesus may not even be speaking in, you guys. Come on, I'm being real here. Just being honest and open and real and transparent here, that look, we miss so much of the nuances, the little winks of Jesus, the smiles, the smirks, the laughter, the joking, the playfulness. We miss the now Jesus, the now Christ in that, because we're looking for a leather Bible. As beautiful as it is, okay? We're looking for confirmation like the Pharisees did in the Chosen series, and you watch the Chosen series, and the ferret, you can see it lived out like, oh my goodness, this is so well done. And if you look at the director, and you look into the reasoning why he put this together, was for this very reason. Like, I want to portray the Jesus I know to be true in my heart without having to wrap a dogmatic scenario around that living relationship. Meaning that I don't want to have to be chapter and verse and cheesy like these other religious movies that have come out that everybody looks at and says, oh my goodness, that's half awake, that says that's not reality, that's not relationship, that's not the eternal now relational interaction that I have with the Jesus I know to be true inside of me, right? And I so appreciate it because, if you're awakening, let me just say it this way, if you're awakening right now, which most people watching this are, if you've stayed with this past 30 seconds, you're awakening to the realization that he is more relatable and more real to our own little quirks and our own little things going on individually than we first realized. We know it in our hearts because if you're in heart-centeredness at all, you understand that to be true, but now we're seeing it on screen. We're seeing the reality of this perfectly human Jesus, but perfectly the substance of love, eternal love. And so if you have anyone surrounding your life right now that is barking at you, dogmatically saying that I am never going to watch that because he doesn't stay true to every jot and tittle and chapter and verse, or a quote Mormon directed it, which is not true, by the way. If you look into it, that's a big one going around. And so what? Like, so what if it was? I mean, what do you feel in your heart when you watch anything? What do you feel come alive in you? What do you feel awaken in you? What are these holy epiphanies that start popping inside of you and telling the ego, look, ego, you need to be loved? What's happening in there? What's occurring inside of you? What is happening when that arises? When you watch or hear anything? That, my friend, is what you should be asking yourself. Not chapter and verse so much, right? Because you can't find an iPhone in the Bible. I'm sorry, you just can't find it. You can try all you want to, honey, but you're not going to find it. You're not going to find the date and the time and the millisecond when God said that's your wife or that's your husband. You're not going to find tacos in the Bible, right? So I'm just saying, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful book. If it is understood or absorbed in the context of what I've just been sharing, Jesus in oneness and the reality he is in you and me. Being led by oneness trumps the fear-filled situations around our lives. Those that are absorbed by fear, those that are consumed by fear. The atmosphere, notice how that's said, atmosphere, even though it's spelled differently. Atmosphere. So even though the atmosphere is filled with fear and it's absorbed by those that are welcoming it through their own egoic activity, humanity is ascending. So just take heart in that humanity is ascending regardless, and we are awakening to these truths that say, okay, that's all right if my friends walk away, because were they really my friends? Were they really friends, or were they built upon egoic foundations? If they're built upon egoic foundations, they'll have to be sustained in the egoic. If they're sustained in the egoic, they will not last in the times we're living in. All things egoic are collapsing. Have you noticed that? They're losing their strength. They're losing their power. We've ascended into the fourth dimension. We're moving fastly towards 5D. I say we're in the 4D breezeway or skyway of the chaos of this very fact moving from here to here 18 inches down. That is the hallway or the artery, if you will, or the nervous traffic flow, nervous system flow in between the two that says there's a little bit of chaos while you're dropping in. And when we drop in, it's endless. Heart-centeredness is endless. It's limitless. It's the current now. When we're in the current now, things pop and move and shake without our effort. Have you noticed that in your life? I have. More and more so. When I take the strong-willed hand of the ego off of things, the effortlessness of the ground yielding its strength to me bubbles up. And then things, the synchronicities, the suddenlies, the popping in unexpectedly, the OMGs of life start happening. You're like, I didn't lift a finger for that. I didn't do anything. Wow. See, this is why people have said for so long, like, why aren't we seeing the miracles in America? You know, why aren't we seeing them like Africa does? Or because other countries understand this principle for the most part. They understand what it means to live and move and have your being in heart-centeredness and in union. When we're in union, we stay out of this. This is meant to serve this. This is meant to be loved and to healed so that it can serve this. It will never serve this when it's not healed. And if we keep sending death to the ego, like, oh, I just kill my ego, kill me off. Well, are you going to say that to the wounded little child in your house? That's all that's going on inside of you, my friend, and me, all of us. Wounded children that have not been loved well. And when it's not loved well, it will bark. Your ego will lead the show, and it will scream, and it will shout, and it will bark, and it will want to end it. It will do all kinds of tripolar type of things in our lives. Quadruple polar, you know what I'm saying? So, if your friends walk away, as hard as it is, as difficult as it may be, we allow the inertia of moving through and down into heart-centeredness to happen. When we allow the flow and the current of heart-centeredness to absorb and consume that wounded side of our egoic minds, if you will, then the current of spirit takes us right into the loving relationships that are at the same consciousness level. And when you're moving and awakening in the same consciousness levels, oh Lord, I've had dreams about this recently, about friends that were ascending, that were kind of religious friends before, but they're ascending, and we're loving each other at such deep levels that men, believing men, Christ followers, were kissing each other on the lips like they did in days of old, and it's not perverted. It's not twisted. It is, I'm in love with you, you're in love with me. You know, Hawaii, they do that all the time. Nose to nose, mouth to mouth, that's the ha. That's the alo, face to face, and then ha, the breath. It's the face to face, it's the nose to nose, mouth to mouth. And so they don't think it's strange to give another male a peck, or a female to female a peck on the lips. But you know, America, Western worlds, we think everything's perverted, right? But we're going to that level of friendships. We're going to that level of vulnerability as men, especially. Thank God. We're going to that level of love, and I've had multiple dreams about this, and I see this happening in men where it is an absolute strength. It's not a weakness, and it's not feminine. It is a masculine move of the spirit. So because we're ascending and we're rising and we're awakening and we're consciously moving through the hallway of the 4D reality, so to speak, where it's chaos, the 5D, which is spirit and beyond, 5D and beyond, it's a level of ascension, it's a level of awakening. The 5D realm is the heart-centered realm. When we begin to move miracles are just a byproduct. They're just there. This is the This is you will do these things and more. You will not only do the things that I have done, but you will do greater. Why? Because now Christ is returned in us. Christ is returning in us all the time by our awakening and our oneness awareness. Then we do the greater things not only in humanity quantity, but on a personal level, because we've ascended past the egoic realm that wants to take credit for these things. This is why they dry up in religious moods. When you drop in to heart-centeredness, you don't care who gets the credit, and you don't care what egoic platform you stood on before or ever want to again. You're like, doesn't matter. You get on videos like this because you felt something stir in your heart and you drop it. You just drop it right on here, right? You're not doing it for any other reason. And the list goes on and on and on. You paint your picture like an Akiana because you are in love with the oneness of the one inside of you, being led by oneness. Being led by oneness because you're super aware now. The heart is open. It's bursting forth in love. And then guess who shows up to look at your painting and buy it? Some other lover that's ascended to that consciousness level that says, I want that painting, and you don't even have to market for it. That's the egoic side of things, marketing, right? So we are in a wonderful, 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 it's a wonderful world. We're in a wonderful time. We are. It's all perspective, my friends. You're not thinking it's a wonderful time if you're still feeding the ego your Gerber food. Now, do that to heal it, okay? If you have to feed it Gerber, heal it, love it, so that it loses its power and it begins to integrate with the heart. And the heart begins to lead the show, begins to lead the flow. And then the ego just lines up with it, and then you don't have to grab the mic out of somebody else's hand anymore because you want to be seen and heard. Oh, Lord, how wonderful is that? And here's a side note before I go. Leaders in the world that want to anchor into the egoic realm and stay there, they won't be able to, because the level of consciousness awakening and the level of ascension that humanity has already gone to, number one, and is going to. So it's the flow, it's the current that if they try to anchor in and throw their anchor down and stay anchored into that, like the Putins in the world or whoever that is really anchored in with their shirts off, you know what I'm saying? They're anchoring into the bedrock of that river, wherever that may be. The current is going to be such to where they can no longer hold the anchor, and they'll be swept with the river themselves. I would rather look at it that way and believe it that way than wanting death on somebody. See, if you're in your head, if you're in bed with your head, you're going to want somebody to be taken out. But if you're in the current of heart-centered flow, you're going to want to have them swept up in the flow with you. This is what's so beautiful about loving your enemies. This is what's so beautiful about the Chosen series, because you remember, if you've watched the Chosen series, you remember when Mary just she was so overwhelmed with shame that she went back into her old life, Mary Magdalene, she went back into her old life in town for a little bit. She comes back, the disciples go and hunt her down. She comes back and she stands before Jesus. I just wanted to lose it on this scene, man. It was so good. He stands there and he's grieving over John, about ready to get beheaded. His friend, his cousin, his life, right? In the natural. Like, that's his family. And he's grieving, and he stands up and he has to collect himself, and he turns around to Mary, and Mary's like, I'm sorry, I know this is bad timing, kind of thing, and he just looks at her, and he says, I forgive you. Just as simple as that. And looked at her with love in his eyes, he says, I forgive you. Why? Because he already knows that Mary's heart is sold out to Jesus in love. She just had the residue of ego saying, come on, let's go party again, Mary. Come on, let's go do it again. Let's go have some fun in the flesh for a little bit, because the illusion of ego shaming us will cause the addictions to flare up again. And then they flare and we want to go have fun, when our heart is already sold out to oneness. See, if our heart is sold out to oneness, then there is no escaping the love. You're not going to escape it. You can try, you can go back to your addictions all you want, but when your heart is fused with love, fused with Christ, fused in oneness, you couldn't cut it apart with a cutting torch. You could not separate it. And so when you know that you're forgiven, your addictions begin to fade, because the ego loses its power. Remember, all addictions are embedded in ego. Ego is the wounded child that hasn't been loved well, and so therefore the addictions want the dopamine effect, because it's trying to gain something it can't get without oneness. It cannot get it without oneness. And oneness is rising now, because the water levels, Christ is saying, it's time. And it's no effort of your own, by the way. It's not how many scriptures you can memorize. It's not how many hours you can fast. It's not how many intercessory things that you can try to pull off. My friends, we live in a realm right now where the current is working for us. So your only, quote, job is to jump in the river 18 inches down. Allow the strength of ego to be loved, so that it loses its strength of it wanting to it's afraid that it's going to lose its power for you dropping in 18 inches down to heart-centeredness, because then it's going knowledge. Where's the knowledge? I need knowledge in order to be fed. But see, remember what Scripture said? Love passes all knowledge. Love passes it. It bypasses the ego, because the ego, it knows that it's only going to be fed by the knowledge that we've been conditioned by. And the more knowledge we gain, the more power it gains. So the more infused knowledge that serves us well in oneness happens right here. You can know everything you want to know about life and more by allowing this to speak to you, by bubbling up and superseding and trumping the ego that wants to run the show. And says, no, I remember, I have the knowledge in my PhD spirituality that this is the way it goes. But when love gets involved, begins to splash up and over, you have an infused knowledge from the eternal now realm that gives you an answer that blows the grid off of everything that tries to hold you back. So anyway, I'm going to drop it right there. Thank you, friends, for listening and ascending together. Let's do this. Let the religious friends just fall away. They have their own journey to walk, and we just walk right into love. The relationships that are waiting right there for us, and more. And then when we ascend again, when we awaken again, there'll be more. And then those will either anchor into their level of understanding and stay where they want to stay, or they want to ascend and go with you. Remember, all the disciples left, right? There's one heart-centered one that's like, okay, I'm going to see what this thing, I'm going to see how far I can go in this thing. Interesting. We have one friend that'll never leave. Because when you're the very substance of love, there's nowhere to go but in oneness with you. So, anyway, love you guys. Thanks for listening. Share this if you want to. I'm in love with the now.